You're watching the 9 o'clock news. Over the past 24 hours, both DLF and Gandhi family's son-in-law Robert Vadra have responded to charges made by India against corruption. But do they raise more questions than answers? Which is why we are asking, should the financial transaction between DLF and Robert Vadra be probed by government agencies? That's the question that we're raising at 9 o'clock tonight on the show. But first, as we studied those answers given by both DLF and Robert Vadra and then also matched them with some of the documents which have now emerged in the public domain of the filings, the regulatory filings made by both those companies, they actually raise more questions than they answer. DLF has actually chosen to respond to the charges made by India against corruption, going point by point, or rather property by property, looking at each of the transactions that they entered into with Robert Vadra, both property he purchased from them as well as property that they bought from him. And each of those responses from both sides still leave much to be desired. Let's quickly summarize for you what those big unanswered questions are. In the case of one of the flats that Robert Vadra bought from DLF, the high-end flat he bought in the Aralia's apartment in Gurgaon, DLF claims in response to India against corruption that he bought that for 11.9 crores for them. But the documents that are available in the public domain continue to show that he has only paid 89 lakhs. So where did the balance amount come from? Has he paid that? And if so, when was that done? Where did he get the money for it? Then we come to Magnolias, another premier apartment complex in Gurgaon, where he claims to have bought 7 apartments. Now, all DLF said in response to that was that he paid 10,000 rupees per square foot market rates. But what they didn't respond to was how many flats did he buy at this rate and when was this payment made. And as Alok Pandey found when he went on the ground to the spot, that even if they had bought, or even if Robert Vadra had bought the smallest size flat available in that complex, he would have paid a far greater amount than is shown on his books.
I am standing in a sector in Gurgaon where DLF has built a large number of residential complexes. Now, one of those complexes under construction is the Magnolias. Now, by DLF's own admission on its website, the smallest flat size in Magnolias is 5,000 square feet. And according to DLF, the going rate for a square feet in that building is 10,000 rupees. So if Mr. Robert Vadra actually brought 7 flats in that complex, he would have ended up paying as much as 35 crore rupees.
So 35 crore rupees is what Robert Vadra should have paid at the very least for 7 flats in Magnolias, but his books only show to the tune of 5 crore rupees of payments. Moving on again to another transaction where DLF says in response to India against corruption charges that Vadra's company Skylight bought some apartments in quotes at the Capital Greens in Gurgaon at the going offer price. But again, what they refuse to clarify, and what Robert Vadra also hasn't clarified, how many apartments, when and how did DLF receive these payments. Let's now move on to cases where DLF actually purchased land from Robert Vadra, and they say that they gave him 15 crore rupees as an advance for a large land parcel that his company brought to the attention of DLF, raising questions as to whether this is common practice for DLF to advance loans to a company that is selling land to it in an area where DLF is traditionally strong, and a company like Robert Vadra's has just entered into the real estate business. Our correspondent Sonal travelled to the spot of this land transaction in Faridabad and found once again that there were far more questions than answers.
We are here in a village in Faridabad, approximately 20 kilometers from Faridabad city. And this huge acres and acres widespread of land that you see behind us has been in question for the past couple of days. The facts and the truth yet unknown, because the locals here are completely tight-lipped about any transactions which took place.
In this case, of course, DLF says that they were returned the money by Robert Vadra, and we still need details of when that was returned and in what form. But then the big transaction where DLF actually purchases 3.5 acres of land from Vadra's company for a whopping 58 crores in a place called Shikhopur, which is again in Gurgaon, just near Manesar, which again raises the question, is it common for DLF to get into transactions with companies like Robert Vadra's for such large amounts? Once again, our correspondent Alok Pandey, who travelled to the venue in Shikhopur to find out more about this transaction, to find out what DLF has done with this land after they purchased it from Robert Vadra. Again, many questions and very few answers.
I'm standing here in the Shikhopur village in Gurgaon, some 30 to 40 odd kilometers from Delhi. Several questions that are being raised at the moment about this particular land. One of those questions is where Mr. Vadra actually got this land that he in turn sold. That is the bone of contention.
Okay, so that was Alok Pandey from Shikhopur. Now, the question, of course, being raised by India against corruption is that all these payments that DLF made to Robert Vadra, did he recycle that back to actually purchase a stake in DLF's own property, which is the Hilton Hotel in the Delhi neighborhood of Saket? Now, they claim that the valuation done was too high by India against corruption. They say the independent valuation came to only 150 crore rupees, of which 70 crores was equity and 80 was debt, and that Robert Vadra bought 50% of that. So 35 crores is what he spent to buy 50% stake into that. But of course, we still need to know from DLF, how did they do this independent valuation? Which was the agency that gave them this figure of 150 crores?
India's #1 news app just got even better. Download NDTV's new app. Fully optimized for retina display. Full screen view. Faster response time. And Sudoku. NDTV's new iPad app. Download now.